This video is about building a PC, installing Windows 10, and RAID. First, we'll be assembling a computer.
This is how one would install a CPU. There's a CPU obviously right there, and it's important that when you pick up the CPU, you hold it by the little frame it's got. Don't touch the bottom. Yeah, don't touch those pins there, they're important. And try to avoid putting oils from your fingers on top. Put it in with the latch and securing mechanism. Take your thermal paste, put a little on. You do not need a lot of thermal paste, just enough to ensure a clean thermal seal between the CPU and the heatsink. A lot of heatsinks, factory heatsinks, will come with a fan on top and some sort of quick screwing mechanism where it either just clicks in, or in this case you push it in and it turns in. And definitely make sure to plug in the CPU fan, or else it'll overheat and not work.
Alright, so next up we're going to be installing the RAM. What a stick of RAM looks like. It is used for all executable, all programs, etc. on the computer. And keynote to remember with RAM is once you turn off the computer, anything stored in the RAM is gone. And as you can see here, the DIMM modules, there's some that are blue, some that are black. If you match up the colors with the 2 sticks of RAMs that you got, then you can dual channel, where you get twice the RAM power. And here is how you install the RAM.
This here is the power supply. This is where all the power for the computer goes through. It makes sure that there's not too many power inside the computer so it does not overheat. Also, this power supply is compatible with this desktop because of its wattage. Now to install this power supply, notice that before I install it, this switch is off as all the power is stored in here. Now to install the motherboard, all these screw holes has to be lined up with all these holes down here. Carefully take it off from the ESD mat. Carefully place it in. And now we'll plug in the power supply. Depending on the slot, put in these ports in the correct slots, like this.
Now we're going to be installing the 20+4 power supply adapter. So we're going to take this 4-pin, install it first. Now we're going to take the 20-pin and install it. And there you go. Right now we're going to be doing the front pins. Alright, now we're going to do the HD audio connected to the yellow connector, like so.
This is how one would install an optical drive. Obviously make sure you're grounded, and slide the drive into the front or rear of the computer, usually the front, and make sure it's flush with the outside of the case, and then you screw it in. This is how you install a hard drive into a computer. You take it and slide it in to the drive bay. Most ATX style cases will have drive bays. This one's got some pins to help you align it. This hard drive also had fins attached to it to keep it in the larger space. We had to take the power supply out of the case to install the hard drive because the power supply was proving to be an obstacle of installation, and as you just saw, when I screwed in the first screw, the second one, it misaligned, so be careful of that. So to allow data transfer from your hard drives and optical drives to your computer proper, we use a data connector called a SATA, and it's got a hooked connector on one side, a flat hooked connector on one side, and a finned hook connector on the other side. And the finned one goes into your motherboard, and the flat one goes into your device. Same thing with the eSATA, which is just, instead of being the SATA connector, it's an eSATA on the outside, and it connects the same way to your motherboard into the SATA slot. So that's how you install a hard drive properly, including the SATA connector. How to install the power to the hard drives. It uses a hooked power connector, very similar looking to SATA, and you just plug it in and it's good to go. To power the optical drive, you use the same power connector as you do for hard drives. Just put it in the slot next to SATA, and then you're good to go.
Now we're going to install the case fan. To install the side panel, make sure the pathway to the CPU fan is clear because it has a funnel.
Next, we'll be troubleshooting with the BIOS and installing Windows 10.
Alright, we're accessing the BIOS menu right here. This information here shows the processor type and L2 cache memory and so on and so forth. So if you want to check out the temperature, go down to hardware monitoring. You can check out the temperature from here. And if you want to set a password, you could set a password here. And there are other menus on this screen.
We will be installing the Windows 10 operating system onto this computer. So as it says here, there's no bootable device, so we have to insert a disk and then press any key. Now as you notice, the disk I inserted in has Windows 10 in it. So we press any key, so in my case, we press the Enter key. Since this is an optical drive, I just typed in 1, and then as you see, it's loading up, so we wait. So after Windows had loaded up in the beginning, we now got to the screen, the Windows setup screen. So we start by choosing the language to install. Here I'm going with the default, the United States English, and time and currency format. I'll just leave everything at default, so to continue, we hit next. And then we click install now. And as you see, the setup is starting. So at this point, we wait. After it's done loading, you will then get to the screen explaining the Windows 10 software terms. Scroll down to read all the terms for Windows 10, and you need to accept these terms in order to install Windows 10. So just click the box that says I accept the license term, and then hit next. And then out of these two options, go to install Windows only, and select the hard drive to install Windows in. This is the only drive we have, so I'm just going to click on this one, and then hit next. And now we wait for Windows to install. Now after Windows is installed, you can now choose to either customize settings for the operating system or use Express settings, but I choose customize just to be safe. So here you can disable some things, like some of your personalization. So I think these are okay. So I just hit next here, and then connectivity and error reporting, next again, and then browser protection updates. Then I hit next. Now we create an account for this PC. So for this account, I'm gonna call it Conestoga. And then you set the password. I'm just going to set it to, I'm not telling you the password, what it is. And then we wait again. Now we just got to Cortana, so it's totally up to you, but I'd use Cortana just in case. And then wait just a moment again. And now we got it. We installed Windows 10 onto the PC we built.
Right now we're going to be talking about RAID and its different implications. RAID stands
And last,
for a
we'll be
redundant
explaining about
array
RAID.
of inexpensive disks, and it could utilize multiple drives within your computer to achieve secure, fast, or even reliable means of storing data. The first type of RAID we're going to be talking about is RAID 0. RAID 0 shares the load between both of the hard drives, and it stripes the data where one half of the data is shared on one and the other half is shared on the other. And what this does is it increases the read and write speed by 2, making it twice as fast, but the only problem is making it less reliable, because if one breaks, then both of the hard drives fail. The next RAID type is RAID 1. With RAID 1, it uses 2 or more hard drives, and with RAID 1, it mirrors the data, so whatever you have on one hard drive, it is shared on the other hard drive. The reason why the RAID 1 is so reliable is because if one hard drive were to fail, all of the data on hard drive 1 will be copied onto hard drive 2, and this will keep your documents safe. The next RAID type we're going to be talking about is RAID 5. What RAID 5 does is it takes 3 hard drives, stripes the data across all 3, and if a disk failure were to occur, it uses a process called parity checking to rebuild one of the hard drives if one of the hard drives were to fail. The final RAID type we're going to be discussing today is RAID 1 plus 0. This combines the benefits of RAID 1 and RAID 0. It utilizes 4 hard drives. 2 of the hard drives will mirror the data, and this will have the same speed as a RAID 0 display. If 2 of the hard drives were to crash, then 2 of them will crash. However, there will still be another 2 that are to be used, so it has the reliability of RAID 1. This is good if you want good performance and you want the safety and reliability of RAID 1.